Hello and welcome. This is another Fourth Down Fiasco exclusive interview. I am Danny Weber, and with me is someone who is looking to repeat success as an ELF champion, quarterback for the Rhein Fire, Jadrian Clark. We ask that you give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment for Jadrian. I'm sure he'll want to hear from you. As a reminder, this installment is sponsored by BetStamp and Sign Up as Expert. They have a massive library of sports books that you can sign up with and are useful for getting all the best deals from all the best sports books, like DraftKings, BetMGM, and more. If you're 21 years of age or older, simply visit signupexpert.com/fiasco for everything you need. We'll also put the link in the description of this video. For our international listeners, there unfortunately aren't any sports books yet through this program, but as soon as there are, we'll let you know. Now, back to the important stuff. Jadrian, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Thanks for staying awake for us.
No problem.
So let's just hop into it. Tell us about your ELF journey. You went to Weber State, or is it Weber or Weber State? I'm a Weber, State. So I always say Weber.
Okay.
But so you went to Weber State, hopped in the GFL for a little bit, and then went to the ELF. Tell us about all that.
Yeah, sure. So obviously the goals and aspirations after my college career were to play in the NFL. Came up just a little bit short. Then found out about the opportunity to play in Europe. At first was a little shocked they even had football in Europe, but was super excited about the opportunity. Intended on just coming over for one season, kind of seeing the world, continue playing my career and seeing what would happen, and came over, fell in love with it. Was playing in Germany at the time, as before the ELF existed, and really enjoyed the culture, enjoyed exploring new countries, and just learning so much more about life and what else is out there outside of America. Also getting to play football at a fairly high level, and every year it's just continued to grow.
Yeah. Who'd you start with the GFL?
My first ever team was called the Kirchdorf Wildcats.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. The three of us were all kind of shocked as well when we were like, is football really that big in Europe?
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear about it over here.
Yeah.
But so with the ELF, how'd you end up at Hamburg? Like, how'd that all unfold?
Yeah, so COVID was taking place, and at the time they had kind of canceled football in Germany. Germany had really strict restrictions during COVID times, and so I was playing for the Vienna Vikings since Austria was still allowed us to play. And then I got a call from Andreas Namensson, who was the offensive coordinator for the Hamburg Sea Devils at the time, and Patrick Azume, who was involved with the league and obviously is the commissioner. And, they said, hey, we're putting together this league. We'd love to have you come up for a visit to Hamburg, and, we'd love to have you be the quarterback of the Hamburg Sea Devils. So went up, fell in love with the city, fell in love with the concept. It was kind of funny because I had played in Germany for a couple seasons and then played for Vienna Vikings, and we were joking around, me and my teammates, who would win if they could combine all the European countries and all this stuff. And then a few days later, I got this call, and sort of what we were joking around over dinner was coming to fruition. So it was too awesome of an opportunity to pass up, and decided to go to the Hamburg Sea Devils for the first season.
No, yeah. I've heard a lot of people say that before the season, like before the league was formed, that they were like, who would win? And hey, now we can find out. But so first season with Hamburg, end up a little short.
Yeah, by a little bit short, like about a foot short. Field goal almost.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. So I've been trying to go back on the ELF history. I know it's only like 3 years, but we actually just started covering the ELF this year. But so after your time with Hamburg, did you choose to leave Hamburg, or how did that all happen?
You know what? We had an awesome season that year, built some, lifelong friends I'm still in touch with. Phil, Audrey, Keanu, Justin, just a bunch of guys, as well as some local German guys. And we just came up a little bit short. Unfortunately, at the quarterback position, when things are going good, you get too much credit. When things are going bad, you get too much blame. For whatever reason, some people decided that it was time to move on. So they ended up moving on from me at the time, which was a little bit of a shock to me. But, it is what it is. Sometimes when one door closes, something bigger and better opens. And, so that kind of I wasn't brought back, and then I got the opportunity to go to Rhein Fire, which ended up being a pretty awesome experience, and it all sort of worked out.
Yeah. So talk us through your free agency period. Did you have other teams looking at you? Like, are you able to say those? I don't know the restrictions on what the ELF allows you to say.
Yeah, I mean, we're allowed to talk pretty openly, but yeah, so I mean, there's definitely some opportunities to go different places. Once opportunity presented itself to go to Rhein Fire playing with Nathaniel Robitaille, one of my former teammates from the GFL, and playing for someone like Coach Tom Sula with such a, unbelievable resume and experience behind him. It was sort of a no-brainer for me to join the Rhein Fire and be a part of something special that I saw they had the ability to create.
Even though you joined the league in year one, what was your thought about joining in a new expansion team in your second year? Was that kind of just like, whatever, it's just the same thing as last year, or was there a different thought process behind it?
I mean, I think I saw what the potential was there, obviously with the coaching staff. The first guy outside of Nathaniel Robitaille that really popped in my mind was Harlan Quofi. I immediately saw his potential and knew that he could be an absolute star in this league. So the opportunity to go play with a couple of really good receivers, as well as such an awesome offensive line. Sven Breidenbach, our left tackle, was a guy that had been in Europe and kind of, a big name in Europe for being this, really strong left tackle. So we had a lot of pieces in place and had the head coach and knew that we just needed to kind of come together and keep building it. And, it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. So what changed from your second year in the league to your third year? You went 7-5 your first year with the Fire and then went undefeated the second year. What happened that off season?
A lot, man. I think it's really tough the first year of a franchise. Just all of those things. Football is one of those things that takes a lot of continuity, and it's not always the most talented team that wins. It's usually the team that becomes the closest knit group of guys. So I think we had a lot of returning guys from year one to year two, and then we added a lot of key pieces as well, especially at the import position. We kind of went out and were able to secure sort of all the top imports at their position, and as well as retaining a lot of top homegrowns and adding to that. So we added Coach Weidinger, we added Coach Kent. We just kind of, at every position we kind of retooled, continued with what was working, and then just added some really cool pieces.
Nice. So bringing up Glenn, did you guys talk beforehand to go to the Fire together, or how did that end up happening? You guys just kind of jumped to the same team? So
Sven and I, we went to London to the NFL game. The Green Bay Packers were playing. Where did they play? I think the Giants. And it was in London 2 years ago, and we had an extra ticket to the game from Matt, the other guy that was with us. And I called Glenn, said, "Hey, Glenn, a friend of mine living in London at the time, how would you like to come to the game with us?" And Sven and I kind of used that as a recruiting visit to stay in his ear and kind of convince him to come over to Rhein Fire. I think by the end of the game, he was sold on it. Had a few talks to Coach Tom Sula, and then the rest was history.
It seemed to work out. But I know we talked briefly about it before we started recording, but what are your thoughts on his season so far?
Man, what he's done is special.
Season,
yeah, I think it's, whenever somebody has that good of a year, sort of like what I had last year, it's not just one individual. It truly, what makes football so special is that it's the ultimate team sport. Without the offensive line, without the scout team just in practice giving a great look, without guys like Harlan blocking downfield, you're not able to have that season. And then it's Glenn's work ethic. He's pound for pound maybe the strongest guy in the entire league. He's quick, he's agile, he's in the gym 24/7, working, always taking care of his body. So, what Glenn's done, isn't just himself, but he's put in the work, and to see him have such success this year, I'm really, really happy and proud of him.
Oh, yeah. Is he as big as he looks on TV?
Bigger.
He looks huge. We just did a thing with Matt and Alex and all them, and Matt was like, he's built like a rectangle.
Yeah.
He's
got muscles popping out everywhere. That dude's strong, and he's twitchy, he's explosive. He's got like this sensor he takes to the gym that tracks all of his weights. And I tried to lift with him a couple times, and his numbers are higher than me at like double the weight. I'm like, that's enough of that.
Never going with you again. I just feel bad about myself.
Exactly.
But so he might be the MVP this year, but what was it like you winning the MVP last year along with the championship game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously those accolades and awards feel great, but if you don't have the success but with winning the championship, it's really like bittersweet. So last year was kind of unique because the championship award was the night before the game in our home stadium. We were playing the next day. So we're like there celebrating, but at the same time we had like a looming championship 24 hours out. And so it felt really good. It felt special to be honored. It felt like I said, it's not just an individual award. Anytime you have that many touchdowns, and I think I threw to like 13 or 14 different receivers, caught a touchdown last year. So it was really cool to, spread the ball around and to have so many different people sharing that success. But yeah, the championship was really more meaningful than anything.
Nice. Do you think they should do the honors after the championship game or like a week before, or are you fine with it a day before?
I mean, I understand that with our league and, not quite having the same budget as sort of the NFL, it makes sense to kind of do it all in one weekend when you have everyone already there. So I think they did like a charity football game and then have the award show, outside of anybody who's up for the awards that's playing the next day. It really makes a ton of sense. You fly everyone in, you get to have them there for the weekend. They get to celebrate and go to the championship. So it makes sense. It's just a little bit difficult if you're up for one of those big awards and you have to play the next day. So.
No, yeah, that makes sense. But about the fans, how big of an impact do the fans have on a game for the Rhein Fire? You guys are averaging just over 11,000 fans this season?
Yeah, you can't emphasize enough what our fans mean to our franchise. Obviously, they're the lifeblood of financing our team, but then also they're so loud, they're so passionate, they're so supportive of us on and off the field in the city. Then on game day, they get so loud that, we're good for 3 or 4 false starts, 3 or 4 delayed games by the other team. It's an unbelievable advantage. The first time we played Madrid, we weren't able to play at that stadium. So it was really a stark contrast to see playing at our normal stadium versus not. So I'm excited to play again this weekend in front of our home crowd.
Yeah, we'll get to that Madrid game, or this upcoming Madrid game. But was it a shock to you when you first went over that was kind of a soccer atmosphere? Because, I mean, over in the States, you're not allowed to have really any noisemakers. It's all just yelling and stomping. But over there, you can have the drums, you can have I don't even know what they're called, the big soccer noisemaker things.
Yeah, what are they called? Fusielas or something?
Something weird, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest shock is you look up and you see people smoking cigarettes in the stadium, and you're like, how's this allowed? But, yeah, it's wild. They're loud the entire game. They're relentless. They get there, like, as we're pulling up to the stadium 3-4 hours before, they're already outside, having a beer, having a laugh, making noise, being crazy. It's I don't know where they get all that energy. It's awesome.
Yeah, tailgate anytime you can, right? I guess if you're this early in the league, you're going to be a diehard fan. But so about other leagues, are you hoping to draw attention from the likes of the NFL or the UFL in the upcoming seasons, or with where you are in your career, are you just happy to kind of ride it out with the ELF?
Yeah, I mean, I think those sort of things sort of out of your control. I think the moment you start like hoping or working for something that you can't control, you just sort of focus on the wrong things. For me, I've always had goals and aspirations to play at the highest level possible and try to become the best I can possibly be, and then just sort of let everything else take care of itself. I'm very, very happy with how my life has turned out, with having this opportunity to travel Europe and play football in front of the Eiffel Tower or play in front of, the Rhein Fire fans. It's really, really cool opportunity. So, obviously the NFL has its draw and its allure, and that is the highest stage, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But if I wasn't going to be able to play in the NFL, playing in the ELF is a pretty awesome gig, and I'm really fortunate and grateful for what I've been able to do in my life.
Yeah, traveling to all those countries would be amazing, even to get paid to do it.
Yeah.
Have you played at the Raiders Stadium?
I have never played at the Innsbruck Stadium, no.
People say it's one of the best ones. We had Aiken on, and he hasn't played. When we interviewed him, he didn't play there yet. You haven't played there yet?
So I've been to Innsbruck, and I've seen the stadium from my time when I lived in Austria, and it's pretty awesome. Like the mountains being surrounded there, it reminds me of being back in Utah, to be honest. Austria to me is Utah, and Switzerland's Colorado. So
Nice.
Switzerland and Colorado get all the attention, but we all know Utah and Austria a little bit better.
Yeah. I was living over in Vienna for a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the Vienna area, but I never got able to get out to Innsbruck. So I just need to find time to do that.
Definitely should.
But back to football. How much say do you guys have? Like, do you have in the Fire signing like offensive weapons, or do you just trust your front office?
Yeah, I mean, the front office ultimately has control. Coach Samsula is, the end all and be all with Rhein Fire with everything. So having someone with his experience and expertise, both with player management and coaching, I mean, it would be crazy to try and, give that guy any sort of advice. I mean, he knows what he's doing, and we trust him full on. Now, do we, as players that, have been in Europe for a while, sort of assist with maybe helping recruit a guy or two? Of course, sort of like college when you host a visit and, knowing guys and having relationships with guys always helps. But ultimate decision-making power is Coach Samsula.
That makes sense. Yeah. I didn't know if he was like, hey, looking at this guy, what do you think about him? Do you want him? Do you not? Have you ever turned a guy away? Has he brought you someone and be like, yeah, I don't know about him?
I mean, obviously there's conversations that happen behind closed doors that probably shall remain behind closed doors, but
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Samsula is awesome, and we trust him fully with whatever decision he goes with.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with being an A import, you're one of 4 on an ELF team. Mm-hmm. What kind of perks do you get? Obviously you can get like stipend, gear, housing. Do you get anything out of the ordinary that's not normal for an A import?
Oh, man. Yeah, they take care of us really well at Rhein Fire. Obviously, they do a good job of taking care of things that allow us to perform at our best, like getting us a cryotherapy sponsor, making sure we have physiotherapy whenever we need it, having meals for us, stuff like that, and then just whatever else is within the rules. We do a really good job of just making sure that the players really only have to focus on football and taking the pressure of all those other sort of things off of us. So, yeah, we're really well taken care of here.
Nice. And I saw a post or something online. You did a sponsored thing. Was that a pizzeria a couple weeks ago, or what was that about?
Yeah, so one of our sponsors, 905, has partnered with us for a while now, and it actually began a friendship with Nathaniel Robitaille and Bjorn, the owner. They're just a local neighborhood pizzeria next to our apartment building. And we would go by there on the way to the grocery store and always just started talking to him. He became a Rhein Fire fan. And just in an effort to sort of give back to him a little bit, decided to do a meet and greet at his place, and then also raise a little bit of money for charity. One of our longtime fans, Harry, unfortunately, is having some issues with his liver and isn't doing quite as well right now. And so I just wanted to try and find a way to raise a little bit of money for charity, support Harry, support 905, and it was a cool event. We had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, from some of the videos that I saw, it looked like a good event.
Yeah.
But so how would you rate your season so far? The Fire kind of dealt with injuries in the beginning of the season. You guys are kind of catching stride the last couple weeks, and you guys are almost fully healthy heading into the playoffs, right?
Yeah, sure. There's always going to be nicks and bruises here and there, but our team is headed in a really positive direction right now. Feel really strong with the guys that we've had, the development of some guys that, early on maybe were a little bit new to the ELF or were used to being more of a backup role that have emerged as starters. It takes a little bit of time to settle in and feel comfortable. And I think now headed into the playoffs, a lot of those guys are in that position. The goal is always to win the conference. We were able to come out and win the Western Conference this year, which to me, and I think most people would agree, was the most competitive conference.
Definitely.
So you're right. We went through a little bit of a gauntlet there also due to the European Soccer Championship this summer. We had most of our away games at the beginning of the season. We had to go to Madrid, we played Madrid at home outside of our stadium, so it wasn't a real home game. Then we had to go to Paris, to Berlin, to Madrid, back-to-back weeks, 3 really tough opponents, and we were able to find 3 wins there after coming out of the gates slow all 3 games. So, I'm really proud of what the team's accomplished up until this point. But now is sort of when the real season begins, starting this Sunday.
No, yeah. How did you deal with the adversity in the beginning of the season, like you personally, with all the traveling, the injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy that stuff. I think last year was a unique season in that everything went sort of too smoothly. It was a perfect season record-wise, and there wasn't a ton of adversity. And going into this season, the goal number 1 was to try to win every single game, just like we did last year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that, but what we've been able to do is overcome a ton of issues throughout the season, and that feels better than anything. To me, we played at Paris, and we'd had Calvin was out. We had a new receiver, made a few mistakes early, had a few turnovers. We're down at Paris on the road, and we found a way to come back and win the game. Wasn't necessarily my best statistical game, but to me that was one of my better games I've played in the ELF, just to find a way to scratch and claw, and the team stuck together, and overall just that win meant so much to me as a whole unit for us to find a way with so much adversity to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. No, yeah. Has the parity of the teams gotten further apart or closer since the ELF has really started? I know this year there's been a lot of talk of like, well, you know who's going to win going into the game. Like, it's not even a challenge. But from a player standpoint, is that true or not?
I don't think so. I think there's obviously, when you have 17 teams and you have I think it's like maybe 10 countries or something, or maybe 9 countries, you're dealing with so many different conditions and so many different things that it's hard to create 100% parity. But when you look at like the top 10 to 12 teams, they're all really, really talented and capable of beating anyone on any given Sunday. So I don't think that there's necessarily a huge problem at the top. Now, some of the bottom teams, I think, hopefully can find some ways this offseason to retool, to restructure some things and become a little bit more competitive. It's always unfortunate when you see teams struggling mid-season, and for the growth of the game for the whole continent, I wish everyone well, and I do hope that we can find ways to solve some of those problems. But I think overall the top of the league is very, very competitive.
No, yeah, I've kind of stayed on that side of the ball as well. Like any league, there's going to be parity. Like even last year in the NFL, the Dolphins beat the Broncos like 70-20. It's like,
there you go. Yeah.
But do you have any ideas of rule changes the ELF could kind of adapt to help kind of close the gap from the bottom teams to the middle of the pack?
Yeah, I mean, the one idea that, I've heard that I kind of think I would support would be maybe potentially allowing some teams that didn't finish very high up, so the lower end teams from the previous year, allow them to have an extra American offensive lineman, 1 or 2. Maybe like the bottom 4 teams get 2, maybe the middle teams get 1, and the top teams get none. Because I think the biggest disparity in Europe is offensive line play. It's probably the most difficult position because you have to be so intelligent. You have to be big. You have to be strong. You have to be quick. There's so many things that go into making good offensive linemen that some countries just really struggle to find. 5 to 6 to 7. You almost need 7 really good guys to build that roster around. So if you could maybe give them some help. And I think also the other reason why American linemen at the O-line position could really help is every other position group has sort of had Americans come over. And I always look at our role. Jordan Newman's a former coach of mine who's a Stuttgart Surge head coach. And he used to always say, your job is to be professionals amongst amateurs. Your job is to be an ambassador to the game, teach people how to conduct themselves. You're there to be not a coach, but sort of a mentor for players at your position group. So the offensive linemen, unfortunately, don't really get the luxury of being around an American offensive lineman very much because it's not a position that people spend American spots on. So I think some of those countries that struggle with offensive line talent, if they were able to have one or two American linemen, it would solve a short-term need and a long-term need of developing the homegrown players at the same time.
No, yeah. The three of us have been on that same boat. Is if you want to grow the league and grow the homegrown players, you need professional help. And we have said multiple times, like, give an extra one or two A imports to just the line specifically. Like, you don't need another wide receiver. Like, there's enough homegrown and A import wide receivers, and E imports. But no, yeah. I wonder, do you think they'll make any rule changes this year or just kind of keep riding with what they have?
I think there's potential. I mean, the league seems to be very agile and they're willing to adapt. I think some people expect people to just snap their fingers and to solve every issue, but I've seen growth every year in the league, and I think that the sky's the limit. I think they just have to keep pushing forward, and maybe we will see some of those changes. It'd be pretty cool.
No, yeah. I feel like the only hardest thing, though, to kind of play devil's advocate would be paying 2 more A imports if you're the 17th ranked team.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But let's head back to the playoffs. Who do you think will be the hardest team to beat in the playoffs, excluding excluding the Fire?
Yeah, well, we won't play the Fire, so.
You could just be like, oh, well, we're the hardest team to beat. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, to kind of, I guess, to take that, I guess the biggest opponent is yourself always. You just have to play to your own standard. You have to find ways to not allow yourself to mentally take any plays off or give up 1 inch at all. But obviously we have a huge game coming up against Madrid Bravos. They're the only team that have beaten us this year. So for us, our sole focus is on them right now. As soon as you start to overlook an opponent or disrespect them at all, I think you're doing yourself a disservice to this game. So for us, our toughest opponent right now is the Madrid Bravos. That's our only opponent. If we don't win this one, there is no other opponent. Good
answer. Is there a team in the playoffs that you wish you could play? Like, you haven't played the Vikings this year. You played Stuttgart last year. You haven't played them this year. Have you played the Ravens this year?
No, we haven't.
No. So out of those three.
I think it's fun playing new opponents. I mean, I think that's always cool. So we haven't played Munich, Stuttgart, or Vienna. We've played Paris and Madrid twice already. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for this matchup with Madrid, and then, potentially down the line, it'd be cool to play somebody new.
All right. So I guess my next question was basically, what do you have to say about the Madrid game? What are you doing going to prepare for that game? Anything different since it's the playoffs, or just same thing week in, week out?
I mean, our processes are going to remain the same practice times, same practice schedule. I think maybe just a little bit more added intensity. We had practice this evening, and you could feel the sense of urgency with the guys, knowing that, this is win or go home. It's the playoffs, so there's no more my bads. We'll get them next time. We got to get it right now.
Yeah.
And but overall, you have to treat it as if it's every other game in the sense of it's just football, right? Like, things don't change that much. You just have to go out and execute, take care of the football, don't commit penalties, field position, play clean football. We feel like we have a really strong team, and when we just do our things right, everything else sort of takes care of itself. Offensively, we use a ton of motion and shifts, so it's really imperative that we get in and out of huddle cleanly, get to the line, communicate well, line up correctly, just sticking to the basics. When we do those things well, we've had a ton of success. As soon as we start to get ahead of ourselves or make mental errors, we sort of shot ourselves in the foot a few times this year. So everybody just being laser locked in on knowing their job, their assignment, communicating clearly with the guy next to them. Madrid obviously is a Spanish team, so we're able to speak German a little bit this week without them knowing what we're saying. But yeah, overall it's the same game, just with a little bit more added intensity, I would say.
Gotcha. How much German do you know?
Ich spreche Deutsch, aber nicht perfekt. You understand? I speak German, but not pretty.
That's fair.
Rhein
Enough to
Rhein also gets a German lesson, so that's pretty cool. So I got an awesome
That's cool.
German teacher, Marina. She's a big Rhein fan, and so is her son. So shout out Marina.
Yeah, my German coach is Duolingo.
There you
go. But how often does it play a part in the ELF? I didn't even think about yelling in your own native, like their own native language, if you're playing an international team.
The guys always mess with me because of my accent. I guess my accent's pretty funny in German, but I give it my best, man. It's fun when you're playing Paris or Madrid. I'll communicate with the offensive line a little bit more in German because then they have no clue, especially the French guys. You know, I could probably just talk English and they won't know. No, I'm just kidding. But it's cool. It's cool to be around different cultures and see how different people, interact. I think each team is different. Obviously, the German guys have a really high proficiency in English, so that helps a ton with our team.
Yeah. Never even crossed my mind. But we need to get you guys mic'd up. I need to some mic'd up content from the ELF. I feel like that'd be pretty fun. But so back to the league as a whole. What's something that the ELF could do to help grow the league, in your opinion? You said they've been doing a pretty good job year in, year out, but what's something that you wish they'd do?
Good question. See, I don't think about this too much. I'm more focused on my own game, but
that's fair.
I think just continuing to find ways to pack the stadiums. I think, it's tough nowadays. Live sports in general are struggling with attendance all over the world, but the ELF is trending in the right direction. At least a lot of the top teams have consistently, added to the fan base. We got to do a better job of just promoting the sport. I think flag football getting bigger and bigger, especially the Olympics coming up, and I'll be in the Olympics for is going to be a nice tailwind for us. And then next year, not having the European Championship should help as well. But overall, I think just everybody getting out, knocking on doors, talking to their neighbors, telling everybody what an amazing sport we have. A lot of times Europeans, they would be a little bit apprehensive to go to a football game if they've never been. And then once they go, they fall in love with it. So it's just getting people out there for the first time and getting to experience what to me is the most beautiful sport in the world. And they'll be won over pretty quickly.
No, yeah. When I was over there, my friend's dad never watched really. He watched maybe like a quarter of a game. But I was over there during the Bengals Super Bowl run, and I'm from Cincinnati. Okay. And so every weekend we were sitting down and watching the playoff games, and he was like, what happened? Why is there a flag? Why are they moving forward? And then by the end, he got addicted. I think he got addicted to football. And I was like,
I was talking to two German Bengals fans yesterday, and they weren't a very big fan of Joe Burrow's blonde hair. What do you think? Yay or nay?
I don't know. Slim Shiesty, I guess. Eminem dropped the album. I just need to look like Eminem. I don't know. I know him and his fiance or whatever called off their engagement, so maybe it's just a midlife crisis kind of thing. I don't know. Isn't he only 27?
I didn't know that. I've been trying to talk the guys into either playoff mustaches or blonde hair, but nobody's going for it yet.
You should get some mullets. Just get some fake mullets hanging out the back of the helmet.
Yeah. Giacomo DePauli, one of our players, has the best mullet in the league. You got to check him out.
I'll have to look him up.
Yeah.
But so we have a couple questions left, and they're just kind of fun ones.
Sure.
But so I don't know if you've seen, I know some players have seen that I've built all the ELF teams in the new college football game.
Okay.
Have you played as the Rhein Fire yet? Or do you play college football?
I was aware that we were in the game. I didn't know that you were the one that built that out. That's pretty cool. Well, thank you for doing that. I haven't had the opportunity to play the Rhein Fire yet. I used to play video games all the time in college. Stopped. I had to put it away. It consumes all my time. So when we do our road games, we bring a portable gaming system. I think it's called Poga. And I've played a few games on there of Madden, but I don't even know if we have NCAA yet. I got to find somebody with NCAA and I got to play with us. That's pretty cool that you did that.
Yeah. No, you're one of I think we have you can edit the attributes, and we had Matt Bresington, the scout, kind of fill out the lists, and you're one of 6 players that's actually in the game. I think he You're
There we
94
go.
overall.
I'll
So
take it. There we go, Matt.
yeah, I think Tunga is like at 98, but
Give him 100.
rightfully so. Yeah, seriously. Oh. All right. For the last question we have, if you could take any NFL player and put them on the fire, who would it be? Import rules don't apply. You can go offense, you can go defense.
Any NFL player, bring him to the fire. I mean, I think I'll probably go with Tyreek Hill. I'd love to throw to that guy. Just speed for days. Watching what he can do, run after catch, throw him a screen, and watch him go 80. That'd be fun. Or throw him some deep bombs. Tyreek Hill, or the other guy I really, really like is Garrett Wilson. He's fun. I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers with a full season with him this year. So that'll be fun to check out. I'd have to go with the top receiver, though, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. I figured with a quarterback, yeah. Who was it? Zach Edwards. We said, you could pick defense. He's like, why? He's like, that'd be no fun.
It's not fun.
No, yeah.
That's great.
Oh, but those are all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to add, say?
No, man. I
shout yourself out.
No, I think it's awesome that, guys like you all the way, even in America, are supporting and following along. Hopefully the playoffs are something that gives you some excitement and something cool to talk about over the next month. Should be a lot of fun. I think the 6 best teams got in, and I'm really excited for what's ahead with this league, and hopefully can continue to grow the sport over here. And thanks again for, whatever it is that you guys do, just continue to promote it and support it and talk about it. That's what we need.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've had a blast covering the league so far. And we were the only ones to pick the Bravos to make it to the playoffs out of the top analysts, just saying.
There you go.
There's something else about us. I don't know.
Nice.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining. This has been an interview with former MVP and ELF champion, Jadrian Clark.